Hey y'all, welcome to Healthy with Heather Brown. If you don't know where to start with balancing being healthy and loving the life you already have, I got you, friend. And yes, of course, we're still going to enjoy some Chick-fil-A. I'm here to come alongside you and encourage you to fall more in love with your creator, your spouse, your kids, and your own health journey. We'll talk about how to let your good things grow until they become daily habits, with the occasional dad joke and point of view from my Yankee hubby, Eric. Don't stress. Let's hop on this Hot Mess Express together. So join me, Heather Brown, as we unpack what it looks like to live a life well loved. All right, y'all, we are back with another episode of Healthy with Heather Brown. And y'all know that we have gotten a little bit into talking about macros, but not as much as what I am thrilled to do today with my guest. That is Lillie from Lillies Eats and Tells. You guys probably already follow her on Instagram or have seen some of her cookbooks. She has truly hacked the system to create recipes with whole ingredients that are super macro friendly, meaning that they are high protein, moderate carbs, and low fat. And her portion size is large. Like, some of the girls on my team are obsessed with her, like literally are fangirling that I got her to come on the podcast. So I'm so amped to bring her on. One of their biggest key takeaways that they love about Lillie is that you can scan the barcode in her cookbooks and it brings up the macros. So it makes it super simple for you. And those of you that are like, I don't even know what a macro is, don't you worry. We're going to talk about it more in this episode. So without further ado, welcome, Lillie. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so flattered and honored that you think I have something to say.
Oh my gosh, girl, you have a lot to say and so much wisdom to bring. So definitely give yourself some credit. But will you tell everybody that might not know who you are or what you do, or if you have kids or not, just a little bit of a background about you and how old is Lillies Eats and Tells?
Yeah. So I'm married with 4 kids. My husband's Ross. He's the best. And we've got 2 teenage girls, 16 and 14, and then 2 little boys, 11 and 7. And yeah, so we're out in Carlsbad, like in San Diego area in California.
Oh my gosh, my husband's I guess brother and sister-in-law on the other side of their family, they live in the Carlsbad area and they go surfing all the time. So I know how beautiful your weather and everything is all the time.
Yes. It is. It's wonderful. I still feel like I can brag about it because it still doesn't feel like mine. It still feels new because we just moved here like 2 years ago during the pandemic.
Oh,
so
wow.
We raised our kids. We like met out of college and raised our kids the whole time out in like Palm Springs area.
Okay.
Which is the desert, the hot desert in California. So like my sister always forgot I lived in California and was like, how is it out in Arizona? Because she's from Laguna Beach, you know? And I'm like, I'm still in California. So we were there for like 17, 18 years and just always wanted to make it back to San Diego. So we just moved back 2 years ago. I grew up in San Diego, which is why I say that.
Okay.
So we love it here so much. And yeah, I started Lillie Eats and Tells. It was actually called Lillie Loves Macros in the beginning.
Oh, okay.
So
I did not know that.
I started on Instagram and it was just like for fun. It was just that I discovered macro counting and it was like this new exciting thing for me. I'd always been interested in, I'd always thought I ate healthy and was always just like any mom, like I'm going to do really good this week. I'm going to do really good this month. You know, I always had like a new plan.
Yes.
And this was the first thing that I felt like was like a whole different angle rather than just like, I'm just going to eat protein and veggies. I'm just going to eat super clean this week. You know, it was like this formula, this like math kind of objective approach at it. I loved it. Like I loved that it was like that I could just kind of not have to cut things out, but instead like work this formula. I've always actually really liked numbers and math. And so I think I just really like that sucked me in. And then it worked for me. And especially in the beginning, let me just say,
yes,
a lot of like success in the beginning where it just like nothing else had done it for me. It just really leaned me out. I didn't feel deprived, et cetera, et cetera. So I just started that Instagram. It was like Instagram to me was, I didn't know anything about it. I was on it, I think a little bit before posting pictures of my kids here and there. I had no idea people started businesses on there. I didn't follow anybody besides like my friends and family, you know.
Sure.
And even then it was just a handful. So I had no idea what it was. And I just kind of was like, I think I'm bugging my mom and my friends with pictures of my lunch. So I was so excited about my lunches in particular. I was like, I cannot believe, because, you know, once you're doing the math, even if you didn't think you were like trying to diet before, in my head, I was like, oh, I mean, I shouldn't be eating a big bagel sandwich every day for lunch. I know that. Everybody says carbs are bad, you know? And so I had in my head what would be a light, healthy lunch for a mom who's constantly trying to like lose baby weight or whatever.
Sure.
And now with macro counting, I could like attach numbers to everything and realize like, I don't have to have just a salad or just pick up my kids' food. I can build this big, beautiful lunch.
And all God's people said amen, because we love some carbs.
Yeah, right. So yeah. So it was just like this like life-changing period for me where I was like, okay, it just changed how I viewed food. And people always say that, and I'm kind of like, I don't feel like I'm the norm of that. Like I healed my relationship with food. I don't feel like I had some damaged relationship. I was just fine. I was enjoying food. I liked healthy food. I liked treats, you know. But this was like a new way to look at it that I really liked.
100%. And it's funny that you say that about you loving math. So, and I'll give some of our people some clarity. If you're like, oh, I hate math, that sounds terrible. I hate math and I am terrible at math. I've always been bad at math. I really have to work on math and the science side of my brain. I have always been more natural towards like English and spelling and all those things. But I will say that even if you're not good at math, I promise you can do this. The MyFitnessPal app actually makes it so super easy. So if you have never tried the MyFitness app, I would definitely recommend downloading that to your phone as an action step, like right after this episode that you can do, because you literally like scan a barcode. So Lillie could take that barcode of her, you know, bagels and then type in egg, and it would literally pull up and tell her how many fats, carbs, and proteins are in it, as well as the calories. So it's a great way to hack that, like, oh, I don't like math and numbers game, is that app for sure.
Right. Not to mention that's why I do what I do now, because so that you don't have to do the math, you know. So you can just, and there's other people like me that do recipes like me, same idea. So it's a lot easier now that is in the mix.
Yes.
Which again, so circling back, it's why I do what I do. Cause I remember vividly, like I started counting macros. I loved what I was cooking, like I said. And I remember looking at a beautiful healthy cookbook that I got from Costco that had really like healthy, lower calorie recipes. Mm-hmm. It even said the nutrition in those recipes, but I was still like, this still doesn't really help me. Like I still can't really track this. I can't log this, you know? So when you're excited about the actual tracking, logging, you know, keeping data experiment that is macro counting and it's working for you, you want to do it right. And even if the recipe was healthy, if it was so complicated to log, I was still like, well, now what? I can't make anything.
Right.
And that's when people get stuck. That's when people get stuck with like, well, I better just eat steamed broccoli and chicken with nothing on it because I don't know how to log anything else. And like that is not sustainable unless you hate yourself. It's a miserable life, you know? So,
true.
Which is why. So I remember sitting there with that book and being like, what if this would be so amazing? This was like 5 years ago or whatever. If they had like a barcode right there. And now I'll tell you, the barcodes in my books are brand new, but for my other books, you've been able to just search the name of the recipe in MyFitnessPal. But still, I'm looking at this book thinking, oh, if only I could make this recipe and then somehow scan the barcode and log it. Can you even imagine? I remember saying that to my husband, like, oh my gosh, can you even imagine? So I'm so excited that my most recent book has the barcodes because I can remember that vision and being like, I can't believe we did it, you know?
It truly is so cool. Like to me, I'm like, that is like so inventive. And I'm so glad that you cracked that code and figured out how to make it happen. But also I was just thinking about it. And I was like, wait a minute. What if some of our friends that are listening are like, what are you talking about? What is a macro?
I know.
So can you talk like as if you were talking to your 7-year-old, my 6-year-old, and just tell them like, what are macros?
Yeah. So your macros is just short for the term macronutrients, and your macronutrients, we all eat them, whether you count them or not. Everybody eats macronutrients every day. It's your carbohydrates, your fats, and your proteins, and they're the building blocks of your food. Your micronutrients are super important, and all the little vitamins and things we get from our vegetables, from everything, from all the color. But what you're tracking in this situation is just those macros, your carbs, fats, and proteins. All of that's going to add up to a certain amount of calories. So really a super simplified version of macro counting. It's just calorie counting dialed in. Like it's just calorie counting, but you're now taking into consideration where you're getting your calories from so that you can really get the most bang for your buck with your body composition, building and sustaining muscle, all of that, you know, because each of those macronutrients has their own purpose. Carbs give you really great energy. Fat is so important for your brain and for your hormones. Protein is so important for obviously the building blocks for your muscles. So you could just say, well, let's just count calories. This is kind of, you're probably going to ask me later, but you could just count your calories, but then you're not taking into consideration other things. So macro counting just helps you make sure you're like hitting each of those points.
Yes.
For like optimum results, you know.
And I was going to ask you that later, but while you're here, just go ahead and tell them, I guess, like what, so you said in the beginning, you especially saw a lot of success with macro counting. So can you kind of expound on why that might've been? And do you feel a little bit different about it now? Because maybe you just have hit like where your body's peak position is, but now you're just tracking macros to maintain that. As I guess is my question, or why did you say there was more success in the beginning, and what made you choose calories versus macros or what have you?
Well, okay. So yeah, if we're going to go there, then this is the part where I'm like, I'm going to be honest.
Do it, girl.
Like, I totally believe that this works because it is a way to track and figure out what works for you. Not because like you'll hear people, I've had people say, oh, I started tracking macros, but then I gained weight, so I stopped. And to me, it's like, well, of course you could, that's like saying I started eating food and then I gained weight, so I stopped. Like you haven't figured out the right amount, you know?
Right.
Or I started counting calories and it didn't work for me, so I stopped. Like, well, just counting them isn't the success. Counting them to the right amount is the success. So just because my fitness pal or even a coach told you, here's a great set of macros for you, because what I didn't say was when we say counting your macros, generally you're going to talk to a coach or you're going to use a calculator online to get a certain macro breakdown for your body, for your activity level, all of that.
Or if you're breastfeeding or if you're pregnant, I mean, every single body is so unique. And so I think it's so important, like you said, that you're testing it. I have changed my macros countless times over the past 3 years.
Yeah. Because the other thing is, people really want to think and when I first started, I felt like it was like this magic formula. I remember just waiting to get my numbers from my coach. And then every time when we were reversing, just waiting, like, do I get 5 more carbs this week? You know, like these little teeny changes, like it was just, those numbers were just magical. Well, fast forward all these years, and no, I do not believe that they're magic numbers. I don't believe that like, oh, if you just change, we just need to shimmy them a little and then suddenly I'm going to have like all this success. It's still overall your biggest component there that's going to make the biggest difference with your goals is your calories. It's just, if you want to burn fat, you need to be in a deficit. If you want to build muscle, you need to be eating in a surplus. And then you trickle down to those also important but less important things like the macro breakdown. And then people get more into like nutrition timing and all of that. Sorry. And actually like quality of carbs, fats and proteins, are they coming from healthy sources or not? But the very highest thing and the most important thing is really just gonna be your calories. So it's like, don't overthink it too much. Don't stress too much, I'd say. And if you feel like it's not working, then you just need to like, I mean, if your goal is fat loss and you're gaining, you probably just need your calories a bit lower.
Yeah.
Having said that, there's a whole other tangent we could go on with, like, it's different for everybody. And sometimes you've been dieting too long. Your metabolism is kind of like settled down too much because you're used to that. So yeah, sometimes you're going to have to eat more food unless you just want to be starving all the time. And you might have to gain weight for a little while so that later you can go into a caloric deficit and lose it, Yes. That's hard and not always a cycle we all want to go through, but that's there too. But I'm just saying, for the most part, if you're not having success, it's just that you probably just need your calories a little lower. Not that like macro counting doesn't work, Right.
And Lillie, I'll actually tell a personal story here for me. I freaked out because the last episode that our listeners heard was with Dr. John, who is he's at Archetype Health here in Birmingham, and he is an amazing resource for chiropractic care, but he's also just very into trying to return you as much as he can to what our ancestors did and living as purely as possible, trying to get in 10 to 12,000 steps a day. He's very good at like holistic health. So one of the things that he had me do was do a 45-day cleanse where I couldn't even drink coffee, no alcohol, no added sugars. Like I was just eating very, very, just super clean. I wasn't tracking my macros during that time. I just was making sure that I hit 100 grams of protein, because I know for the type of workouts that I do at Burn Boot Camp, which we'll talk about later this season, I needed to have enough protein. So I think that there's definitely seasons of your life where you adjust those macros, or, you're like, okay, during this time, I'm not going to worry as much about macros.
Right.
But during that 45 days, I didn't end up dropping any weight, and I didn't see any change in my body composition. And so I was like, that's a red flag. That's a major, like, to me, that's a red flag. And so I talked with him about it, and I talked to my Fast Road to Fat Loss coach, Miranda, about it. And also my Burn Boot Camp trainer, Megan, about it, who I'll have on soon. But what we decided was that I had actually gotten my body in so much of a rut, and I was not eating enough calories, that it was like, oh my gosh, you're always going to have me in this deficit. And so I'm just going to hang on to everything that I can. So I actually had to bump up my calories to like almost as much as my husband's. I mean, I was at like 2,000 calories. And then they were like, you're going to have to be patient. You're going to have to see how you feel. You're probably going to gain weight in the beginning. And nobody wants to hear that going into swimsuits.
Right.
That's what I found out.
Yeah.
I was so mad. But then at the same time, I was like, but Heather, if I truly believe that this is a long-term healthy lifestyle, then like a few months of me gaining weight to like reset my metabolism is well worth it. You have to have that long picture mindset.
Right. Yeah. So I love hearing that, because that's kind of where I should be going with this answer when you asked, like, so I said it worked in the beginning. I was younger. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm in those years now where it matters. I'm 41 now. So when I started, like, I'll see an old video on my Instagram. I'm like, ooh, like, am I able to stick? Are people going to keep following me? Cause I'm getting older. Like I wasn't the same in the beginning, I was like 35, 36.
And actually, Lillie, I bet you're even going to see your following grow more, because I feel like not as many people are in the Instagram. I mean, I don't want to call it an Instagram game or the TikTok game, but it kind of is as well, I guess is what I'm saying, in that business. But I feel like so many younger people latch onto that when you can really hone in and niche into that, the people like me that are in like perimenopause, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that will be vital, I think, for people to see on Instagram, is women as they're aging, still living a healthy lifestyle, and how that looks different.
Yeah. And it is different. That's what I'm learning. And so I do feel like, I hope it's helpful and not just like, oh, it stops working. Cause it's not like I feel like, here's how I feel. I cannot just shed 5 pounds anymore. Like, oh, if I just reduce my calories back to 1680, where like when I first started tracking macros, I'll always have that in my head. My calories were at 1680. I know right where my macros were. And I just always thought, if I ever gain weight, I'll just do it again, and I'll just lean out again. And that's not been my experience, So and it is frustrating sometimes when you're on there on Instagram and you see so many like darling young fit influencers, and they are doing so great. But a lot of times the message is, even with the best of intentions, I feel like it can be frustrating, because the message is like, just keep going, hold on there. It just takes time. Here's my before, and look, it took me 3 years, and here's my after. And I'm kind of here like, well, it's been 5 years, and I'm just getting a little softer, like I'm still doing it. I'm still there, and I'm doing all those same things. So I think there's more to it. So it's great to have these tools so that we can do our best. But like, there is still hormones. There's like, that play a huge part. There's things that kind of get in the way of our bodies responding in that very linear formula that we want, So these younger, just people who aren't having any issues with that, it might be very linear, like calories in, calories out. And if I just stay at it and work a little harder, this is going to be my result. And as I've gotten older, it's not quite how it's working for me. Right. But I still love this lifestyle, because I love what I eat. I feel really like it's really whole, nutritious food. I still love the idea of not feeling like I need to cut foods out, that I still feel best like that, even if I don't ever get to, you know, like I didn't know I was 35 or whatever. But
so Lillie, I want to say this to you, but I also want to say it to our readers. First of all, you look freaking fantastic. So that there's
thank
that number
you.
one. And number two, I think that there is so much to be said for women in this space specifically, that you have to give yourself grace, because there is always going to be hardships that come along. Like, you know, you've moved, you've had 4 kids, you're, you know, doing all these things. I mean, we all lived through 2020 and 2021. We, like, people die. Like, there are seasons in your life that are hard. And so, and then you're always going to see younger, fitter, prettier, smarter, whatever it may be. There's always this comparison game going on. And I think for those of us that live in this Instagram, you know, under that microscope or on TikTok or whatever, it's really hard to beat that, you know, comparison game. So I didn't even plan on us going here, but I feel like I've loved hearing your thoughts on it. And I think it's so helpful for women to hear that they're not like, oh, like even they feel this way. And, you know, we're experts on it. I use air quotes because we are experts, but also like we are still human. We still struggle. We still don't hit our macros. We still work really hard and sometimes don't get the results we want. Like that's life. And there's space and there's grace for that. So maybe can you talk a little bit about comparison and like how you try to battle that efficiently in your mind, maybe?
Yeah, and that's real. You know, you hear so much criticism like for Instagram for that. And I used to think it didn't really affect me because I wasn't, you know, you all have like your triggers or your wall or whatever, where it finally hits you. And for me, I'm not really, maybe because I was so focused on creating, right? When I really got into this and I accidentally, to circle back to the beginning, I accidentally stumbled into this business. I didn't plan on starting a business. I just wanted to share my lunch. And then it just kind of grew and grew. Yeah. And then people were asking for recipes. And so I was sharing and then asking for a book. And before I knew it, it was a business. So I think because I was so busy creating, I really didn't feel, I was so excited about it. I did not feel that comparison of like, they're always on a vacation or their life looks so good. I also felt like being on there creating, I was super aware that like, of course, we're all just sharing our best stuff. Of course, we're only sharing the photos that we feel like we look pretty cute in our swimsuit and not the one that like your kid caught of you where you're
like, oh, here's my cellulite on my back thigh.
Yeah, like we're not sharing those ones. So I kind of felt like I have like a backstage, like I get it. But fast forward, you know, it gets to you. Like I've been in there long enough. I feel I'm kind of embarrassed to admit this. I hope I don't regret it, but probably for me, it's that I really don't want to disappoint people. Yeah. And I think that, being in this space, and even though from the beginning, I remember telling myself I could never be like a fitness influencer, I just had to remind myself, like, I'm food, so it's okay. Because I remember thinking, what if I gain weight? What if I gain weight? And then people are like, I don't trust her anymore, you know? And I just kept telling myself, like, I'm not here for fitness. I'm here for food. And I don't even have to, that's not even my job to look really good. My job is just to create healthy recipes that you can use and that hopefully are helpful to you.
Yes.
So even at 41, and even though I think I'm a confident, happy woman, I have way more important things going on in my life with my 4 kids, my family, and my faith and everything than my fitness, you know? But I still feel nervous when like wonderful friends and followers on Instagram maybe see me in real life and I'm kind of like, oh, what if I let them down? What if I'm not credible because I'm not this like fitness influencer? I don't feel like that, you know? I feel like just a normal, healthy mom that's just trying to keep up, kind of, you know?
Yes. And Lillie, I definitely relate to that. I feel that same way when I see people out and about. I'm like, oh my gosh, when they say like, oh my gosh, my life well loved, or like, oh my gosh. And so I'm like, oh gosh, they don't really know me. They know me from Instagram.
Right.
And so then there is all of a sudden this feeling of like, oh my gosh, like, I hope I don't let you down or, you know, disappoint you from like what you envisioned online. But I think that is where you and I mean, you mentioned faith, like we have to go back to the grounding of like, who our creator says that we are. And we all know that like on this side of heaven, I say this often, there's sin and there's like things that are hard that we come up against. And part of that sin is like also just being like, well, it's on me to be enough. But like, actually, as long as I'm walking in the calling that God has put in my life and I'm like doing my best to please him, I'm not going to make everybody happy. And I like,
Right.
that hurts my heart. I wish that I could. But I think
Right.
that's one thing that I have really had to learn over the past decade, because you're right. It was a lot different in the beginning than it is now. So
yeah.
and I honestly am like truly honored that you even admitted or like said that, because I'm like, I'm right there with you. I had the same exact feelings.
Yeah.
And I think that it's something that most women in this space, you know, struggle with for sure. So, but I don't want to like take up all your time talking about things that are not related directly to your amazing expertise, because you've already shared so much good wisdom. But we both love meal planning, as evidenced by the books that we write. I have 2 healthy meal planning ebooks, one more specifically focused on kids, and the other one more so about how to eat on a budget and healthy. And I love that your newest cookbook plan is centered around a 6-week meal plan. That's super cool to see. So what is your favorite benefit from planning groceries and menus ahead of time?
So I feel like I actually have to kind of come clean. Like I would not call myself a meal planner or prepper. Like I'm not very good at that.
Okay. No, I'm like, this is good. You are
So,
giving women everywhere that are listening to this a huge sigh of relief. They're like, oh, praise the Lord. I don't have to fit in that box.
I mean, I think it really works really works for some people to be fully prepared. I'm just not organized. I'm just kind of like, wouldn't that be nice? It's okay. We'll figure it out tomorrow. Like I'm always just kind of like, oh, I wish I would like that. That's okay. We'll just figure out what we want to eat tomorrow. So for me, and it's kind of funny that I like am in this and that people are always asking me opinions on meal planning and stuff. And so this book, but here's why it lines up with me, because the way I like to eat, and I guess my version of meal planning is having protein prepped in the fridge. I feel like I've repeated this too much, so I hope I'm not boring, but protein prepped in the fridge and tons of veggies on hand. And I genuinely just feel like everything else can be wrapped in last minute in our kitchen. So this is how I wrote my book. So my very first book, that's why I wrote it that way. That whole first book, Lillies and Tells, just called Lillies and Tells, I didn't know I'd have.
Let's get real for a second. If there's one thing the last 2 years have taught me, it's how important a close accountability circle is. In 2020, some of my small group and gym friends, you probably often see on my Instagram actually, started our own little mama village to keep each other going during that crazy, work out together, and to pray for each other. I really treasure the encouragement and accountability that comes from that. And I've gotten several DMs asking if I offer any type of coaching, and I heard you. I am so excited to offer, hey, drumroll please, live coaching and daily encouragement and accountability for the first time ever. This September, you can join me in a challenge I'm calling the September Slim Down. For 2 weeks, you'll be able to join an exclusive, intimate Facebook group. I'll be there every day for those 2 weeks, offering personal coaching, daily check-ins, personal advice, and more. We'll focus on drinking more water, eating better, and getting our steps in as we fall back into fitness and our healthy habits. It sounds simple, and truly, that's because it is. Sometimes all you need is a little accountability and motivation, and that's the goal of this group. And I really want us to have fun together too, if I'm being honest. I'll also share the tips and lessons that motivate me, teach you how to have a food diary, and crack the code on macros. All the things. Don't worry if you'll feel overwhelmed though. We'll be doing it together. All that matters is that you just show up. And sometimes that's the hardest part. As a bonus, you'll receive one of my ebooks, Meal Planning for the Busy Mom, a complete guide, for free might I add. Don't wait to grab your spot. We start on September 12th, and that's when signups close. The link will be in the show notes of this episode, and feel free to reach out to me on Instagram at @HealthyWithHeatherBrown if you have any questions at all. I'm happy to talk with you through them. I can't wait to be a part of your health journey and to develop deeper relationships with y'all. So let's get it, girls.
Okay, so my first book was just like prep a protein, and then here are several recipes you can use that protein in. And then there was your next protein. So that's what the way that cookbook was organized, because that's the way that we eat. I would make a huge batch of some Instant Pot chicken or grilled chicken or shredded pork, whatever. And then I would use that in lots of different meals. I don't feel like it ever feels like leftovers, because you're not just like pulling out the old casserole dish of lasagna and like eating it again.
Right.
You're taking the pulled pork and you're doing barbecue sandwiches one night, and then you're doing tacos one night, and then you're doing stuffed sweet potatoes. Like they don't feel like the same meal. And then if you interject a couple things in there. So anyway, so that's how, so then my next cookbook was this one dish meal cookbook. which, and I'm telling you this because they all work for meal prep in a different way,
Cool.
what I've learned. So everybody was really requesting this one dish meal style of cookbook. So that's what my second one was. Way more of a challenge for me because I don't really cook like that, because that takes more planning, you know,
Right.
to
There
really
you
have
go.
all the ingredients for this one dish. And heaven forbid you don't love it. It's like, there it is. You've got the whole dish and like, it's going to come out of the oven and then like you cross your fingers. So that's a little scary to me.
Right.
But the response was amazing on that one. And I feel like that's still like a major fan favorite for people.
Yeah.
So I think it just depends on how you like to eat, but people who really love the meal just legitimately prepped, like check that off, and you can just pull it out and you can put it into different containers for the week for your lunches, or you can just pull it out and serve your family.
Yes.
Those recipes are wonderful. For me and my family, I don't know. I really love to chop fresh vegetables. I want every meal to be bigger than anybody else does. I want to add as many greens as I can. Like I'm at Kava. I'm the one that's like, one more handful one more handful of greens.
That's
Sorry,
hilarious.
like, can you just shove it in? Like, push it down. It can fit. You know, I want like as many greens as possible, because then your meal is bigger, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So my last book is sort of like this marriage of those two. And this one's called Planned, because like you said, it starts out with this 6-week meal plan. And in that 6-week meal plan, and I'm not trying to just push my books. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to explain like.
No, I appreciate it. And I'm going to link them in the show notes on Amazon or wherever Lillie wants me to link them to. So don't worry. They'll all be linked in the show notes for you guys to check out.
Awesome. So the last one, is like, you've got this 6-week meal plan that is sort of like my first book. You're going to prep one protein that week, and it's going to give you 2 great dinner recipes to go with that protein. And then like a lunch recipe that often goes with that protein. And then, you've got some breakfast and stuff. And then at the end of the 6-week meal plan, you've got these bonus sections that are kind of more like the one dish meal recipes, where you could, fill in where you want. So if you want to make this healthy spaghetti squash casserole, and then interject that into your week, etc. So I guess to answer your question, my point is my version of meal prep in my own kitchen is that I'm never going to run out of protein. Like when I grill chicken, I would never grill like 2 pounds of chicken. All these recipes that call for 2 pounds of chicken, I'm like, who's doing it? Like if you're gonna heat up the grill, like I'm gonna grill.
Get it done.
Chicken. Yeah, we're gonna grill like 6 pounds of chicken, at least 3 pounds, depending on if I was at Costco or not.
Right.
And because that is never gonna get wasted in my house. You're gonna have it fresh the first night, kind of how my book works, with sides or whatever. And then later it's going to be chopped up in your salads or in your skillets or in your rice bowls, or it's going to be just barely reheated. Everybody's always like, how do you reheat it? And I feel like there's this idea that every dinner is supposed to look like this Jenny Craig dinner, like this chicken with a side of mashed potatoes. And to reheat a chicken breast and eat it with a fork and knife is like gross and boring,
Right. Yeah.
I like it fresh, but reheated, no. But when you're building a beautiful sandwich with this yummy sauce and like all these beautiful veggies and roasted bell peppers or whatever, you just need to barely reheat that chicken, and then you've got your toasty bun, and it's amazing. It's a restaurant sandwich,
Yeah.
So you just have to use it in the right way. So what's important to me is protein prep and having lots of veggies like available. Whether you like to fully prep them or not is up to you, but that's meal prep to me, is mostly protein prep.
Okay. Well, I absolutely love that. And I agree. We are very big advocates of doing grilling like as much as possible. And I'll be like, okay, Eric, I'm going to go ahead and have you do steaks for tonight. But then I also have this hamburger beat. So can you put that on at the same time? Like we really try to be wise with our time. And I feel like the reason we meal plan that way is because, like you said, like we have 2 kids, we have busy schedules. Like we're just trying to not fly by the seat of our pants all the time. And so cooking more at once is very helpful for that.
Because that's easy. Like when you've got the protein, then when we're all hustling in and we're hungry, it's just like we've got grilled chicken in the fridge and we've still got taco meat in the fridge. So great. Either real quick, I'm going to decide I'm going to toast up buns. We're going to do chicken sandwiches, or I'm going to heat up tortillas and my daughter's going to chop for pico and we're going to do tacos,
Absolutely.
But it's not, I would never want to come in and be like, starting from scratch, what do we have in the freezer to quickly thaw and cook? The protein is what makes that stressful. So
It
sorry.
really does.
Moving on.
And I was going to say, and if you guys are like stressed about how all this is sounding, I'm actually launching, which Lillie, I haven't even told you this yet. So I'm like, if you want to even like send me some recipes to share in the group, I totally will. But I am doing a September slim down. And that starts in just a few days from when this episode goes live. It's mylifewellloved.com/September. And you can do 2 weeks with me where I'll be coaching you every day in a Facebook group about ways to get into healthy eating, meal planning, also, talking some about macros. We'll get into that a little bit, but basically just holding your hand as we go back into the back to school routine, because I do feel like so many of us during the summer are kind of like, I don't know what I'm eating. I don't know if it's healthy. I don't know if I'm busting my budget. I'm just driving through Chick-fil-A 4 nights a week, which, hey, I'm not going to hate on Chick-fil-A. I love some Chick-fil-A, but if you do need help with that, I would love to hold y'all's hand. So go to the show notes to register for that. I would love, love, love to have y'all in there. And Lillie, if you want to shoot me any recipes to give to them there, I would love to share your cookbooks in there and anything like that. Cause you are the boss when it comes to macro counting and such. So,
I love you.
of course. So you talked a lot about having fresh ingredients on hand that are full of vitamins and fiber. How often do you go to the grocery store, I guess? And what does it look like for you? Do you have a garden? Like, how are you keeping all this on hand and using it up?
Yeah, I wish I had a garden. If I was like more organized and had time for like extra hobbies, that would be number one, because that would be amazing. But I don't have a garden. I do always buy fresh herbs because I think they're so crucial for a beautiful salad. I just really love fresh herbs in my food.
Yeah.
So I just always buy like the potted plant of basil and mint from Trader Joe's or whatever, and I keep those by my kitchen sink in a pot.
So see, you are gardening. You've got a little garden. You're just buying it started.
Put it in a cute pot. I'm totally green thumb. And then I just lost my train of thought. What was I going to tell you?
We were talking about doing go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have an outside fridge, so that helps. I can't imagine not having 2 refrigerators. And no, I do, I just discovered Walmart delivery like 6 months ago, 3 months ago, I don't know. And that has changed my life. I feel like I'm really late to the game. I think a lot of people do grocery delivery or pickup. I never thought I wanted to because I love grocery shopping. So
I do too. I'm such a nerd.
I love it. I love it. I don't love Target. I don't love real shopping, but I could wander grocery stores all day. But the problem is I don't actually have the time to wander grocery stores all day. So what I learned is I can still stop at Sprouts or Trader Joe's when it's convenient and I'm on the way home, and then I can get my favorite little things. But to have those basics delivered to my doorstep, I mean, it's amazing to me. So that's helping.
Yes.
But otherwise, honestly, I think we are a little unusual because I've got these 2 teenage daughters and they eat like me. One in particular, I mean, I don't think anybody in the world could compete with the size of salad that she eats and I eat. Honestly.
Oh, wow.
Like when we go, I feel like if we go to like an event or somebody else's house is doing dinner, we're both like, should we bring like a bag of salad greens in my purse? Because they're not gonna have enough salad. Because they're going to have a meal and they're going to have like a bowl of salad for group people, and that bowl of salad would for sure feed like just Sophia or just me. So I'm saying that because I know it's not the same for everyone. We never throw out veggies. Like we literally never waste veggies, because whatever we have will get chopped up and thrown into a giant salad. Yeah. And I can just count on her if I'm like not having a salad that day, she's pulling it out. So anyway, so we do, but I don't mix it up a ton. Like I know variety is really good for you, really important to get a variety for our gut bacteria and everything. You want lots of different plants. But I'm like, so I'll branch out sometimes, but when I branch out too much is when stuff gets wasted, right? If I buy like, I don't know, like eggplant, I actually love eggplant done right, but I'll buy it just swearing I'm going to make some ratatouille or something, and for sure we're going to throw that away. Nobody's eating eggplant unless I really plan to make that recipe. But otherwise, we just always have lots of mixed greens and arugula, the basics for salad stuff, and anything we eat, I'm going to supplement and add those in. So it doesn't have to be that we planned a big, beautiful salad, but every dinner, the thing of greens comes out on the counter and that's added into our food,
Okay, so Lillie, this is such a good point. I love that. That is such a great key takeaway. I'm like, I am making that note to always set out the mixed greens on the countertop when you're eating dinner, because inevitably you'll add more. So you're getting in more greens in that nutrition. I love, love, love that. And then also, I'm curious, I have things that I buy every single week without fail at the grocery store. Can I hear like your top 5 to 10 items that are always on your grocery list?
Yeah. And like, I almost want to find my Walmart list in my phone, but
Y'all, since Lillie is mentioning this so much, I will link the Walmart shopping app in the show notes as well. She's like into it.
I'm sure you can do it from other stores too, but it's been amazing. It's amazing. Awesome. I'm sorry. I can like lay in bed at night and be like, ooh, I want to try this recipe tomorrow. Put in the order and it's on my door at 8 a.m. You know, it's amazing.
That's pretty nice.
Okay. Yeah. So staples for me, again, like I can survive without, as long as I have like mixed greens, like we cannot survive without mixed greens or arugula. Those are the two things in my home that are super important. If we get home from a trip and we have been gone and we only have romaine, because I feel like romaine has a longer shelf life, then we'll do just a romaine salad, but that's hard for us, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, mixed greens and arugula.
Which time out, tell them why just a romaine salad is hard. Because for me, it's because there's not as much nutritional value there. Is it the same reason for you?
Honestly, no, I just don't get as excited about it. I just don't like it as much. I think like I can still like it, but I think that like when people think salads are boring, for me, I'm thinking it's because they haven't had a salad done right. They're probably trying to eat just like big hunks of romaine with big discs of cucumber and like quartered tomato or something, hunks of carrots, like these big things where you're like, now I'm eating a cucumber. That's amazing. It's delicious. You know, I think it's all about chopping everything real small.
Okay. That's good.
Everything we chop super small. It's just the way, it's not even like a thought. It's just the way we chop everything in our house. And girls do the same. It's all teeny tiny. And we even chop our mixed greens or chop our arugula even smaller. And then you don't need, because what happens with that boring big salad with the romaine and the huge chunk of cucumber is that's when, especially a non-salad lover, is going to feel like they need like ranch dressing all over it to make it taste good, you know?
And the shredded Kraft cheese. No offense, Kraft.
Yeah, that's fine. If you love a salad like that, great. Like I'm not shaming you. That's wonderful. I love ranch too. I love good restaurant ranch. But when it's like a softer lettuce, like arugula or mixed greens, in my opinion, or super chopped kale. Some people hate kale, but I think if you chop it really small, it's amazing. Then I just love like lots of salt and pepper. And my favorite vinegar, I share these a lot on my page, but like if you are a macro counter or this style of eating appeals to you and you like to keep your fats down, I don't even bother with olive oil. We just do these delicious vinegars. They're like fruit infused lemon or peach or grapefruit. They're so delicious. Naturally just sweet.
What brand are they? Or do you make them?
You can find, if you know, I buy them at a store close to me called Baker and Olive. They sell online.
Okay.
I tag them a lot on my stories. But if you have like a fancy olive oil shop near you, they're going to have them. And they're generally like, they even come from the same farms. You'll just see they have a different label on them, but they're amazing.
Okay.
They're amazing. And they're just like 3 carbs per tablespoon. Because of course I've emailed all the people to get the nutrition facts from the farm. Anyway, and they're amazing. So really we just toss everything in this vinegar. And then anybody in my family can choose to add extra dressing or hummus or tzatziki or whatever if they want. So I think you got to get creative with all those. Anyway, I can go too long about salads. I just think they're underestimated, you know?
Yeah.
And I think like dinner doesn't have to be just a salad, but to me, it's like the way to bulk up every meal. So if I'm at somebody's house and they're serving lasagna, like that's delicious. But when you have any idea of macros, it's like, okay, well, I don't want to eat for like 20 seconds and then be done with my dinner. But my macros for that lasagna would probably be over in about that time, you know?
Right.
So I'm going to want to bulk up my plate with a lot of veggies done in a way that I still really enjoy. So I can enjoy my lasagna, but not have to be done eating in a minute and then either go back for seconds and thirds or eat bread all night or, you know.
Well, and I actually
think salad
think
is like the bulker.
That's a really good tangible takeaway for anyone, even if you don't track macros and maybe you don't even track calories, but you're like, I just know that I want to eat healthier and not get too many fat and too many calories and feel bad. Maybe even if you make a goal to fill half to 3/4 of your plate with salad and then do whatever the carby, fatty deliciousness is that you don't want to completely miss out. Like there's a way to find a balance in that for sure.
Right. And yeah, salad's done right. It doesn't have to be like the sad part of your plate that you're just checking the box, you know? It can be like, just adds to it all.
Yes.
All better.
So you've got on your list so far, we've got arugula, we've got mixed greens. It sounds like we've got this vinegar. What else do we have on your grocery list every week?
Yeah. Just tons of fruit. We never want to run out of avocado. Is like,
okay.
If we're down to like 3 avocados, I'm doing what my Walmart order. Like we go through multiple avocados a day because we just really love avocado. So really, it's just super important to have plenty of produce. Bananas are always, avocados always, peaches if they're in season, mangoes, apples
Love
and
peaches.
berries. We just always keep the fruit stocks for my kids. And for me, I'm not going to eat like fruit really as a snack all by itself. I love it, but just because there's still carbs, it's wonderful, healthier carbs, but there's still carbs, and I'm going to enjoy it a lot more when it's like adding to a meal or supplementing or bulking up a meal. So I'm going to love it on top of my yogurt bowls or a little bit of fruit in my salads or on top of my rice cakes with cottage cheese, So for me, fruit is like a topping on everything all day long. I love that. And we're never going to run out of, there was a phase where I wasn't doing gluten, but I'm back on gluten, and I am absolutely obsessed with the cut to carb wraps. If you've seen the crunch wraps that I have a whole crunch wrap cookbook because I love these like low carb wraps.
I did.
They're
actually,
amazing.
Lillie, you came up on my explore page with those wraps. Now that you say that.
They're honestly like, I feel like doing less gluten than I used to, but yesterday I had a crunch wrap for lunch and a crunch wrap for dinner, and I'm like telling my girls, I'm back on, like, you might have to pull me away from them because once I get on crunch wraps, I'm like, nothing compares, because it's so easy to build this amazing crunch wrap for like under 400 calories, and it's so satisfying. I just feel like there's not another meal that hits kind of like the macros that this does, except for a salad. So if I don't want a salad, but I still want my macros to stay really tight and feel really satisfied, and not like I got cheated, it's just delicious because they're like 14 carbs for this huge wrap, and they taste amazing. They're not just like a vehicle. They toast up beautifully. They have such good flavor. Anyway, so I love to not run out of those.
Yeah,
but they're not a grocery store item. They're only sold online, so that's fun.
Okay. I'll link those in the show notes too. Don't worry. And actually, Lillie, really you said they can go to your highlight on Instagram to get the recipe for that, right?
Yeah, got lots
awesome.
of stuff about crunch wrap. Or on my blog, you can Google crunch wrap, Lillie crunch wrap, and you'll find it. Yeah.
Don't worry, I'll put it in the show notes too, so you guys will have it all done for you. Okay, so Lillie, I was going to ask you too. It sounds like I was going to ask you if you set a timer, you only have 20 minutes to fix a quick meal for your family. It sounds like it'd be a salad. Is that the answer, or would it be something different?
No, because it's a good question. No, that would be. That everything would be out, and I might build a salad. And I hate how it sounds. It sounds like I'm like a super dieter, but it's not like that. I just really love massive salads, But if we're having like a sandwich or tacos, I'm eating that for sure. A salad is my default, but
don't worry, because she does not only eat salads. In fact, I'm going to link her shake in the show notes. She's like famous for her delicious, it's like a chocolatey shake, like where you feel like you're getting dessert. So I'll link that in the show notes too. Like she has it every night for dessert. Yeah. Sounds amazing.
We gotta talk about that because that's every night. But before that, dinner. So 20 minutes, tacos. I would say tacos is like for sure our default, because literally you would die over some of the tacos my daughter makes. We could be having like, I could have made like stir fry, and she's like, yeah, I'm going to put it in tacos. Like she'll pull out the tortillas, and she'll do like the spicy mayo. She'll like whatever it is, even if we're going like full, like Chinese food platter. We don't ever go Chinese food platter, but like I said, if it's like a stir fry, if it's seafood, whatever, everything can be tacos in my house. So when we've got leftovers, it's like whatever protein is in there, it's pretty much like, do we want to put it on buns, over rice, or in tortillas? And it's like, it doesn't matter what protein it is. I don't feel limited to like, it only makes sense if it's ground beef or ground turkey. It's like, if we have fish in there or chicken, we'll chop it up, or pulled pork, even if it was barbecue pulled pork. I just like tacos are like the fastest thing. And if we don't have anything at all, I still feel like you could pull it off in 20 minutes, as long as I've got some ground meat that's thawed,
Yes.
So I've got like ground turkey or ground beef that's thawed. It's so fast to whip that up and then pull out all the toppings for tacos. So that's what I go to for sure.
Now, what are you using as your taco shell? The same ones that you talked about for the wraps?
No, just corn tortillas. We're just basic corn tortillas. I like the Mission Extra Thin ones because they're going to be your lowest carb option for a basic classic corn tortilla.
Okay.
And they're not teeny. You know, some people are like, oh, these ones are only 25 calories. But those little street tacos, those are garbage to me. That's
They
like
are.
bite,
I'm like,
right?
get out of
like,
here with
I
that.
don't even need like a dozen of them. Yeah. So the Mission Extra Thin are still like a decent size. So a lot of my recipes are written with those because they're like 8 carbs a piece. If you're gluten-free or you really like to watch the grains or the corn, then I love the siete tortillas. They're going to be a little higher in macros and calories, but I love those. They're very
They are so good. Oh my gosh, they're so good.
so good.
I love siete.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Lillie, I ask every guest on the show a final question, and I'm curious to see your answer. Although I'm like, maybe you've already said it in this episode. We'll find out. What is the one thing health related right now that you are just loving? Like it is something that is lighting you on fire. You're super excited about it or looking forward to it. It could be a podcast, food, a workout outfit. It could be anything. What would your answer for that be?
Oh gosh, I wish I had a better answer for that. I feel like, I think the first thing that comes to mind is just not that clever, but just my food, because we just did this with the youth from our church, this 3-day, they call it Trek, and it's like hiking and camping for 3 days.
Oh, cool.
Sleeping outside under the stars, like, and I have no control of my food. We could bring some snacks, but there's nowhere to chill anything or keep ice or anything, which was really hard for me. But so just a total slave to whatever they're serving for food. And it is basic. It's like just, you know, food. It's like hamburger, big white bun out of the bag, not toasted, some shredded lettuce, you know, just your very simple, like you're out there and some guys like cooking food for the masses.
Yes.
So I'm like, I'm just going to go with the flow. It's fine. I ate what I ate. But because I have this macro brain, I can't help there's plenty of times I'm not tracking, but I can't help but know, right? This is what I do for a living, just calculate. Right. I'm like eating this hamburger that could not be more mediocre, right? It's like this skinny little patty. I'm like, I got about like 11 grams of protein in this hamburger patty, but like twice the fat.
You're like, no
there's
seasoning.
Still no flavor. Yeah, there's still no flavor because there's no salt on it. The bun is like so big, it's all carbs, but it's not toasted, it's no flavor, but I'm hungry, so I'm gonna eat it, you know? So I'm like, okay, cool. So I just ate like 600 to 700 calories of like just sustenance. Like that's it. Yeah. Which is so hard for me because I'm used to being able to have so much control over it in my life. So I just love that. I just love my own food. I love that, like, even if I'm not able to shed those 5 or 10 pounds like I could when I was younger. Sure. I love to know that like with a little bit of effort in the kitchen, I can just always have beautiful, wholesome, nutritious foods and they can taste so good, you know? So anyway, I don't know if that answers your question, but food is the thing that lights my fire, obviously.
Which is why you're so great at what you do. I love it so much. Well, Lillie, it was an honor to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining me today. Is there anything else that you want to tell our audience about where to find you or where to get your latest cookbook or anything else that you have coming up that you want to share with the audience?
No, just, my cookbooks, you'll find them in the link in my Instagram, or you can just Google Lillies and Tell's cookbooks. I'm sure you find them there on Shopify. So they're not on Amazon or anything. They're just sold through my Shopify store. Okay, perfect. You can find them through my blog. And also, there's tons of free recipes on my blog. So it's not like you have to buy a cookbook to use some recipes. And that newest one, if you're into meal planning, it is super helpful because it's got the grocery list and everything, which I've learned that people love. I did want to say, just because we mentioned the shake, but I didn't get to talk about it. Yeah, Google the shake. If there is important to you, because I've talked so much about salads, you're going to think I'm like a bird eater, but I am the opposite of that. Like I want to eat all day. That's the problem. That's why I love salads, because they're big. But no, I do not. I literally like almost don't go a night without my shake, which was why Trek was so hard. But even if I'm too full, like I'm not the best example because I'm not this intuitive eater that's like, no, I'm full tonight, I'm good. I'm like, no, I'm gonna have it either way because it makes
absolutely
me happy,
you are. Yes.
It's the greatest thing ever. So that's it's in my latest book, but it's also on my blog. And it's just a doctored up protein shake, but all those details matter. It is not just a protein shake. Like it's really good.
No, like
But there
literally
you go.
my COO Alyssa that was completely so excited that Lillie was coming on the show. She was like, Heather, you have to make the shake. And I was like, what is the shake? And she was like, oh, don't worry. I've got the reel saved. I've got this saved. You can go to this highlight. Like she had the whole thing detailed out. So apparently this shake cannot miss. And I will definitely link it in the show notes for everybody.
Oh yeah. I have people message me all the time, like they pack their blender like for their hotel to still make the shake. I'm like, I get it.
Yeah, it's legit.
Amazing.
Okay, well, Lillie, thank you again so much for joining me. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
You guys, I am going to link all the things that we talked about in the show notes down below so that you can check them out. You can get her cookbooks. You can go follow Lillie over on Instagram. And then don't forget, I am having our September Slim Down starting in just a few days. I would love to have you guys join me over there for one-on-one accountability and also just getting to meet each other and kind of being in the same phase of life, starting the school year with people holding your hand, helping you walk into a healthier lifestyle. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. If you have any questions, DM me on Instagram, and please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Happy anniversary, Eric, and welcome back to the Marriage Corner.
It's good to be back in the corner.
That's right.
So cozy back here.
Eric, why don't you tell everybody how many years we're celebrating?
Be 14 years, I believe.
Yay!
Didn't hesitate on that one, did I?
I'm so proud of you. I'm not going to lie, now that we are over 30, every time somebody asks me either how long we have been married or how old I am, I always struggle. Do you?
Never.
Okay, that's real cute. You are older than me, though, so I'm not going to let you forget that.
So much older.
That whole 6 months, it matters.
I don't even know about that.
June and November?
5 months.
Okay, 5. Almost 6. So I figured that today we could talk a little bit about birthday parties because we are planning our boys' birthdays, and I feel like Eric and I both grew up very differently on just like how we celebrated birthdays and what that looked like. So I'm going to open up with a story of Eric and I's, actually, I think it was our first big discussion, as we call them, in college. I grew up where my parents and grandparents and aunt and uncle, my sister, everybody went all out for birthdays. So my assumption was that Eric was going to freak out and be excited when he saw me on campus one beautiful day at Sanford on November 11th about my birthday. And so I am, walking to class, excited to see everybody. I was the classic girl that was like waving, smiling at everybody, seeing everybody. Granted, it was a smaller campus, so you did know most people there. And I happened to see Eric walking towards me on the sidewalk as I'm walking the opposite way. And he just kind of like is looking down. I'm like, hey, Eric. And he literally just went, oh, hey. No happy birthday. No nothing. And I was just like, what the heck? So we had to have this whole discussion about it.
That is true. Probably wasn't one of my more proud moments, I would say. But to my defense, I tend to be, like most men, have a one-track mind. And back then I walked with my head down and I was walking from point A to point B. I had to get there. But yes, I failed horribly there.
Well, and again, it goes back to one thing that Eric always talks about, which is expectations. So I hadn't clearly communicated my birthday expectations at that point.
So I know you just mentioned expectations, and yes, we talk about that a lot. Your expectation obviously was I was going to, make this big deal of your birthday. And that was just something that I didn't necessarily grow up with. Also, too, I think I was 19 or 20 years old as well, too. But I didn't meet your expectation. And as we have been married for 14 years now, I now understand your expectations better and try to meet those. And my expectations were different. I grew up with different expectations. Now, I always had a great birthday. My parents made me feel extremely loved and special. But yeah, just a little bit different expectations.
So you're definitely going to knock my socks off this year for our anniversary, right?
I don't know. I feel like the gift last for our 13-year was pretty special. It was.
Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Sure. So last year, the gift that I gave you for our 13-year anniversary, had some sentimental value to it. And basically, I have a specific memory as a child where I remember on my parents' 13-year wedding anniversary, my dad gave my mother a piece of jewelry, a bracelet specifically, and it had 13 diamonds on it, obviously for the 13 years. And so I wanted to do something a little bit similar to that. So I did get you a bracelet. It was a tennis bracelet, but basically it had 3 different bands with diamonds around them. And one was yellow gold, a second was white gold, and the third was rose gold. And I thought it matched up perfectly because for each different type of gold, I told you.
Mm-hmm. And the letter that he wrote, that was very kind.
Yes, so handwritten letters are always nice. But the yellow gold was obviously just kind of represented me. That's our marriage. It's very traditional, classic, if you will. And then the other 2, the white gold and the rose gold, were represented our 2 boys, Leighton and Finn. And the white gold I felt like better represented Leighton. Also a little bit more traditional as well too, polished around the edges, if you will.
For sure. Agree.
It's more of a people pleaser, if you will, the white gold.
The white gold, that's true. That's a good correlation.
Yeah, which I felt like that fit Leighton very well. And then the rose gold obviously represented Finn. It's a little bit, out there, a little
edgy,
a little more edgy, a little more rebellious. But I always do like having little gifts that have a little extra meaning to them as well too. So I felt like that was a good gift. So I'm going to, give myself a little.
You should. That was a great gift. I definitely teared up, and just the handwritten, of course, card that he gave me with it, and just the words that he said about his parents and all those things just really, spoke to me. So I still will thank you for that gift. That was it's truly one of my favorite gifts that I own.
It's going to be tough to beat this year. I'm going to be honest with you.
It's true. And I will say, Eric and I typically don't do, I would say, physical or like tangible gifts. It's like we might give each other a little something. Like if I know he wants, a certain bourbon that I think would make him happy or whatever the case may be. Eric might know that I need a new pair of workout shoes. Okay, great. But I would say our real gifts, or we might say, like, for our anniversary, let's go ahead and buy these tickets to see Morgan Wallen or to see Maverick City Music or whoever it might be. So we love an experience gift. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely more experiences, I would say.
Yes. So we're kind of in the thick, actually, of birthday and party and planning mode right now because the boys' birthdays are coming up. And so, oh my gosh, Eric, talk a little bit about like your expectations on birthdays and maybe like how they were growing up, and then like how that filters down to our boys now and what we do each year. And do you think I'm a little extra with their birthdays, if we're being honest?
I think in general, kids' birthday parties have kind of gotten out of hand.
Yeah.
100. Nowadays you have to have a theme, you have to have an invite, you have to, have specific party favors, and, I feel like I've been to a number of kids' birthday parties. I try to avoid them, but...
Yeah, Eric's normally like, you can take the kids.
Have fun. But anyways, I don't know. I'm a big believer in simplicity. My birthdays as a kid consisted of thankful that my grandmother had a pool. We would invite some friends over. Specific memory of mine, my grandmother, being a triplet, my grandmother would make me and my siblings each our own individual cake. So as a young kid, there could have been a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cake that she made. There could have been a soccer ball. Whatever you asked for, she would make. I remember a specific... my sister wanted a gumball cake, so my grandmother made a gumball machine cake, complete with actual gumballs like placed onto the cake. And
Grandma Jo, that lady has got some skills. Seriously, think about all those cakes she made. She sewed for you guys. She made them costumes for Halloween.
It's true.
It was unbelievable. But anyway, getting back to birthday parties, I totally agree that birthday parties, unfortunately, have gotten kind of out of hand. I will say that Eric and I, one way that we kind of, I would say, justify or rationalize our costs would be that we try to make the boys share a birthday. Which
I don't think we can do for much longer. But for right now, it's working out.
Yes, they have a birthday in the same month, and so we typically pick a date in between Leighton and Finn's birthday so that they can be together, and we just invite a lot of, our family and friends, to be honest, but I feel like as they get older, they probably will be able to invite less people, and maybe we would take them to do individual special things or something, more like what your grandmother did, where you have a couple friends and you do whatever you want to do, right?
I'm open to all suggestions.
I love it. And I also think it's completely ridiculous that you have to get party favors. Like, what parent actually is like, yes, please send me more Dollar Tree junk to clutter up my house with? You know what I mean? Do you like a party favor?
I mean, I remember as a kid, I used to love a party favor.
Oh,
but
sure.
Nowadays, yes, I think they're going a little overboard now. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a wedding; it's just a birthday party. So yeah, we are in the thick of party planning mode, and I mean, I always love celebrating the boys' birthdays. I'm thankful that we have friends and family that want to come and love on them and do all the things. Eric, do you have like a party that you remember the most that you loved growing up?
That's a tough question. Like I said, ours were pretty simple. I mean, for the most part, they were either at my grandmother's pool or my other grandmother's lake cottage, which I always did remember those. Those were always a ton of fun. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say anything specific.
Yeah, okay. Well, we had, when I was probably about 11 or 12 years old, we went to a beauty school, and I got to invite, I think it was like 3 to 5 friends, and we all got to go and get pampered and get our nails and our hair and makeup done, and I remember just thinking that was like it. I thought that was the coolest birthday party ever, so yeah.
I do remember my sister growing up, one of her birthday gifts was glamour shots. Do you remember glamour shots?
No way. Why have I not seen Janelle's glamour shots?
I think I might need to pull those out, but,
Absolutely.
The classic backgrounds, the perm hairstyles, typically that's kind of what I, correlate with glamour shots.
Yeah, maybe a little red lip.
That's what it was called, glamour shots, right?
Oh, yeah, you got it. Nailed it.
All right.
For sure. Well, Eric, anything else you have to add about birthdays or fun or...
I'm coming around to your idea of birthdays for you. It's a birthday week or a birthday month.
Heck yeah!
And I will give Heather credit about this. She does make everybody that she celebrates feel very important, very loved, and I can get on board with that.
Oh, thanks, babe. High five. Boom. Look at that. All right, you guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us back for another episode of The Marriage Corner. We hope that you have an awesome day. I hope you're enjoying your fall, and we will chat with you next week. Oh, hey there. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to take a screenshot of your podcast app on your phone, post it to your Instagram stories, and tag me at Healthy with Heather Brown to let me know your favorite takeaway from this episode.